The Maple Leafs will be without Auston Matthews this weekend against the Oilers. How can they still come away with the win? We'll talk about that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I was talking about this earlier. I'm at TSN today, hence why there's just a different background today. And I was talking about this on the show gameplay earlier today, Dave. FanDuel is going to get a lot of action tonight, this weekend in general. You got that Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight. I don't know if that interests you at all. It interests me a little bit. You've got Leafs, Oilers tomorrow. Then you've got a great slate of football games on Sunday. And it all finishes with the Grey Cup, Argos, Bombers, and you're down there. You're down there in Vancouver covering the event, man. It's going to be a fun weekend of sports all around.
Yeah, I was at BC Place today, walked around the field a little bit. It's a huge stadium. It's really nice. I can't wait for that stadium to be, hopefully, capacity, but at least a good number of people there. The vibe here is incredible. It's going to be a great Grey Cup this weekend.
Absolutely. So that's ongoing. But the night before, Leafs Oilers, and that's what we care about here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. And it's going to be a great one on Hockey Night in Canada. I was thinking about this too. I mean, on top of all of that, you've got Taylor Swift in the city. It's going to be a madhouse down there. I was having that conversation also. It's like, how are you going to find parking? Like you've got
don't drive.
Do not drive, people. If you got tickets to the game, which awesome, right? You got to get to watch Connor McDavid live in person, coming off his 1,000th point game. I would not recommend driving down there if you can find a way to take the GO train in somehow and take transit, because it's going to be an absolute madhouse. I think they got parking up over $100 just to park. It's insane. Absolute insanity. Like it's gonna be crazy down there. You're lucky you're out of the city, man. Absolutely lucky.
And it's funny enough, when I'm leaving in a few weeks, she'll be here in Vancouver. So it's like I miss her completely.
Oh, you'll be here next weekend, I guess.
I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here for. Oh, you know what? And it's funny enough, like let's say the Argos do pull it off and win. I was like, where are they gonna hold like the festivities?
Well, so if they do pull off the win, I'd imagine that they'll have the parade, Tuesday or Wednesday? Because she doesn't play again, so she goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then she's off, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday again.
Okay, yeah.
So you've got like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday to hold that parade, but that's just going to be an absolute crazy week if that happens again.
Yeah.
You think it's going to happen, by the way? Like, I know it's the Locked On Leafs podcast. We're covering it. It's a 9.5 point spread on FanDuel. I think they at least cover the spread, but can they win?
I think so. I think they cover it. They need a lot to go right to win this game. They really do.
Yeah.
So
they got to slow down that running attack. Brady Oliveira. That's what they got to do.
Yeah. Good Canadian boy. Good Winnipeg boy.
Mm-hmm. Oilers are favored in the game tomorrow night between the Leafs and Oilers. I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that Auston Matthews has been declared out for a 6th consecutive game. And I don't know, I found it a little bit bizarre that he was declared out like officially more than 24 hours prior to the game, just because it seems like over the last few games, it's been more of like a day-to-day game time decision type of like rhetoric from the team. And then all of a sudden today, like, no, he's just not going to play tomorrow. It's like, what's going on here? Like, it's a very ominous situation with Matthews right now.
It's like he's on the ice last Saturday thinking, all right, this is against the Canadians. So that would have been last Saturday, right? Like, And then all of a sudden now hasn't been on the ice. He's been staying away pretty much from practice. And it's like, did something happen in that last skate that's just like, yeah, this ain't going so well. Let's just let it rest up. But it's like,
there's been no setbacks. That's like their messaging is no setbacks. Just trying to make sure he's 100%. It's like, I don't know.
So yeah, that's the part that's confusing. It's like no setbacks. It's like, well, going on the ice, but then not going on the ice kind of seems like there was a setback somewhere.
Right. That is what that kind of tells me. But this Maple Leafs team, they never really tell you anything straight up, I guess. And on top of that, Craig Berube today, Max Domi wasn't at practice. He is expected to play in the game against Edmonton, but he's banged up and only playing at 50% apparently. So now you've got Auston Matthews, your number one center, and Max Domi, who kind of slid in as that number one, number two center on top of it, who's only playing at 50%. The depth down the middle seriously being tested right now for Toronto, and that's tough when you got a deep team down the middle like the Edmonton Oilers coming to town.
Yeah, it's I'm thinking about the matchup, right? And I'm like, man, this is going to be tough because you focus all your attention on 97, but then they got other guys, right? That like the Oilers the last few years have really tried to find ways to not make teams fixate on one line trying to shut down.
Well, McDavid and Leon won too. Like they got them on separate lines. They're not playing together. So you got McDavid on line one. So if you want to throw out your top line against them, okay, Leon's coming out after on the second line. Doesn't get much easier. After that, Adam Henrique as your 3C, Derek Ryan as your fourth line center. Like it's just incredible depth down the middle for them, and it does not match up well with the Maple Leafs.
It doesn't, and that's why when you don't have an Auston Matthews, the trickle effect, especially when, as you said, with Domi not 100%, it really does. It looks a little bleak, right? And we're even talking again about William Nylander at center, right? And like that's not a conversation you think you'd be having at this point, right? It kind of shows how dire things are. Heck, we're even having some people talk about Fraser Minton coming up because of what he's done so far with the Marlies. It's like
he scored his first goal.
He scored his first goal, but he's only played what 2 or 3 games so far. Like let's not throw the kid into the fire with that. But yeah, I know it's every team wishes to have more centers. Yeah, and that's the.
Well, I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, man, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they finally have the defensive situation kind of figured out. I think we enjoy what's going on there. They now need a middle six center. Like that's really what I think and the deadline's ways away, but I think the Leafs, if they're looking where they need to, the position they have to address, it has to be that. Not just for the sake of depth, but also like they're just not good enough as is. So that's definitely a weak area that the Leafs have, and going forward, they're going to have to address it if they want to be, considered even in contention to possibly compete or win a Stanley Cup, which they have to be where they're at. I mean, at this point, with all these guys in their prime, you got to be able to at least be competitive for a Stanley Cup, or what's the point? Like, not that it's cup or bust, but you got to at least have a chance. And the way it's set up down the middle right now, I don't know if I do give them a chance against some of the top teams in the NHL, but it's a good test tomorrow against Edmonton, one of the top teams, a team that went all the way to Game 7 of a Cup final last year with some great depth down the middle. So we'll see how it all plays out. Let's take a break and continue to break down Leafs and Oilers on the other side. And also, one concerning trend from Toronto that has been emerging over the course of the first 17 games or so. We'll tell you about that too, coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I ain't walking over glass, cracked glass even, just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. There you will see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile, and you get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3 months plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional tax fees restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday and hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. With 5 generations of experience, they constantly deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steak have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL with a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. That's OMAHA steaks.com, and an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL. Minimum purchase apply, only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. A little bit of a later pod for you guys today. A lot of moving parts with Dave and I this week. It's been a busy one, but we are making it our goal to make sure we get podcasts out to you guys. Better late than never, right, Dave? Better late than never, as they say.
Yeah, this 3-hour time change is really I have my computer's on the Eastern time zone, my phone's on the West time zone, and then trying to figure out plans of what to do and get the recordings done. I said I wanted to get it done. Thankfully, we found a way to get this done because now I understand the challenges that some people go through when they have to do these things through time changes.
Yes, yeah, it is a little difficult, but better late than never. Again, you can find the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get a podcast and also up on YouTube. I think we're only 1 subscriber away from 6K, by the way. I looked earlier today. 5999. I was like, we can't get one more? Come on. So sub up. Let's get us to 6K and over 6K before we have our next show on Monday. That'll be awesome. There was an interesting thing. I was watching SportsCenter last night and watching the highlight reels of what was going on in the NHL last night. Did you happen to see who scored last night in the Sharks game?
I did happen to see that one, Timothy Liljegren.
Liljegren, not Liljegren or Liljegren. No, apparently our boy Timmy Lils told Sharks media we're going to go with Timothy Liljegren. So now he's Liljegren. It is such a pet peeve of mine when players for years don't mention anything or they tell you one thing and then come back with another. It's so annoying. But yeah, Timothy Liljegren. Congrats to him though. Scored a goal last night, his first of the year, first as a Shark. But yeah, it's Timothy Liljegren. Thought that was interesting. The Maple Leafs taking on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. It'll be the second game for Yanni Hakanpää, who will check in, obviously. And another interesting lineup note that it appears to be this way, at least based on what I saw at practice from the lines that were tweeted out. It looks as though Nick Robertson might be a healthy scratch once again, Dave. He was skating on the second line in what is typically Nylander's spot, but Nylander was taking Domi's spot as the 2C, but Domi expected to play. So really Robertson a placeholder. That's back-to-back games now that the Leafs have said thanks, but no thanks to Nicky Bobby. You can sit on the sidelines up in the press box, munch on some popcorn. We're going to see what Alex Steves has instead. That's not a good sign.
It's not. And we talked at length about on the last show, just it's sending a message to a player who hasn't provided the consistency that we were maybe hoping for. We thought really good preseason. This is going to be the platform for him to really, shape himself into what Craig Berube wants out of him, and it hasn't happened. And now you're just like, with him, it's tough because if he's not scoring, we talk about what other things is he going to do. I thought he was on the right track. Again, yes. Did I think a good preseason meant that he's going to go out and score a bunch of goals? No, but I thought that he was going to have the right frame of mind to know what he needs to do each and every day to be in this lineup, and he hasn't done it. It hasn't happened, and I don't know, again, how patient this Leafs team is going to be with him if he is not providing that.
Well, he was given a new lease on life, right, with a new coaching staff and maybe an opportunity to a fresh slate, if you will. And it's not that I think he's played horrible. He hasn't been a liability. Maybe the liability probably would have been out of the lineup a lot sooner than now.
Yeah.
But it still is a situation where if you're not scoring, what would you say you do here? And what is ultimately more concerning, I guess, for Robertson is the fact that the Leafs are really struggling to score, especially secondary scoring. If the big boys aren't getting goals, really nobody is scoring on this Leaf squad. I was taking a look at this earlier today. You look at teams around the league and some of the better teams, they're getting depth scoring, right? You take a look at the top goal scorers on the Maple Leafs, and they're the names that you would expect to see, right? Nylander, Tavares, Nyes, Marner, Matthews. All of them have 5 or more goals. But then you don't really have a lot after that. McMahon's got a couple. Lorentz somehow has 3 goals, but that was all came the first week of the season.
Yeah.
And then you don't have anything else. Nick Robertson, 1 goal. 1 goal this year, and Nick Robertson through 15 games. Max Domi, 0 goals. David Kampf, 0 goals. Pontus Holmberg, 0. Reeves, 0. All of their defensemen not named now Connor Timmins or Morgan Riley have a goal. It's just OEL has one as well. Sorry, but the lack of secondary scoring is very apparent, and the fact that they know this, and this is obviously a known situation right now for Toronto, and they still are willing to take Nick Robertson out of the lineup, just goes to show kind of the lack of faith that they have in him figuring it out.
Well, that's it, right? And it's really, when you read off those names and guys who aren't really producing, some of them, okay, you can understand they're not exactly expected to produce. The Nick Robertson one, that's a tough one there. And I don't know if it's because he's not, obviously, yeah, he's not getting the prime top minutes to, and to get those scoring opportunities, but you got to find it. You got to find ways to do it yourself. He's getting easier matchups, right? You'd hope that by having him low in the lineup, he'd be able to get some of those better opportunities, against lesser competition, and it hasn't happened yet. And given everything that went through this offseason, you get a new coach. You hope you can show the coach what you can do, why maybe the other coach was being a little harsh with you not being in the lineup, and it hasn't worked out. It's tough, and yeah, they really need that secondary scoring, because now with Matthews out, you're relying so much on now having to load up guys onto that top line that I don't know what it is they at least can do to really get that lower part of the lineup. It's not like, David Kamp's supposed to get this offense going?
Right. No.
It's not going to work like that.
No, but you do need something out of Domi. You do need something out of, McMahon played well, obviously, in the last game, but prior to that, he was sitting on just a couple of goals. So he needs to continue that. Camp can't sit at 0, though. Eventually he's got to pot a couple. I think he's averaging 10 a year since he came to Toronto. So it's not as though, he has 0 scoring touch but at some point it would be nice for these guys to get going. All right, we'll take another break. We'll come back and we'll get to our keys to the game for Leafs and Oilers tomorrow. That's coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today to get started. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets, and if you win your first $5 bet, it's guaranteed. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NHL. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you here on the show. Leafs Oilers tomorrow night in Toronto. Going to be a super, super busy weekend here in the city of Toronto. Just a massive sports weekend in general. The Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, does that land on your radar at all tonight?
It might. I have. There's a few people here in Vancouver that are like, "Oh, how are we gonna watch?" I'm like, "It's on Netflix."
On
Does
Netflix.
not anyone have a Netflix account? Like, it was almost like, "Oh, we got to go find a bar." It's like, you don't have to find a bar,
dude. It's easier to watch this fight than it is to watch those Amazon Prime games for the Leafs. Like more people on Netflix than Amazon Prime.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is a really, really jam-packed sports weekend. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of actually fighting heavyweights, has Ryan Reeves been as effective as you would like him to be? Like he's yet to drop the mitts this year. We're 17 games in. Isn't that a little weird and odd to you?
Well, not only that, is that odd, it's where's the physical presence, right? Like he tries to go and land hits, but we're not seeing that. I wouldn't say intimidation because that's not the only reason why he's out there, but just like, I don't know, it feels like because he doesn't play a lot and other teams, we haven't really seen a lot of like the tough guys on teams that also try to go after Leaf players, right? Like I'm trying to think who recently would he have been able to go after or not go after, but like challenge.
Yeah.
Haven't really been like maybe like Washington with the Tom Wilson. I wasn't like Tom Wilson. I don't even think really wants to fight Ryan Reeves. We know that history, right? It's like
Garnett Hathaway's a pretty tough guy. He's still there, I believe.
True. Yeah. I believe he's still there. So it's like, it's not even like the fighting for me. It's the what's he doing to get under the skin of the opponent. You need to. There's like where's the jam, right? Do you expect him to play it? I haven't seen it really from him.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how I felt about the deal when it was signed. He gave us a little glimmer of hope last year towards the end of the season, but so far this year, again, not really providing a whole lot. And like the first week, okay, the fourth line looked pretty good, but since then they've been getting caved in pretty much. Like their underlying numbers are not very good. Him, Lorentz, and David Camp. So it's like, what would you say you do here? And it's kind of curious that they elect to continue to go to the well with him over like a Nick Robertson or over a Nick Steve or Alex Steves or whoever else might come up from the minors. Maybe Nikita Grabenkin at some point gets a look and an opportunity up at the big club. But just something that kind of popped into my mind as we're talking about Iron Mike Tyson, the true heavyweight champ from his day. What's the key to victory this weekend for the Leafs against the Oilers without Auston Matthews?
Without Auston Matthews, you need to find. You got to. We talked about depth, but you're not going to win the McDavid matchup. That's the hardest matchup to win. You have to find a ways to beat the Oilers when McDavid's not on the ice.
Mm-hmm. Big way to do that, the power play. I think it's another situation where they got to make sure that they win the special teams battle. And weirdly, like Edmonton last year had an unbelievable power play. Like the past like 4 years, they've been one of the best power plays runs that we've ever seen. just 15% on the power play this year, ranked 24th. Their penalty kill, 62%. They're dead last in the league. So Toronto's got to take advantage. And look, the power play has started to click for them, so they got to keep it rolling. It's a big reason why they've been able to win without Auston Matthews. It's not the 5-on-5 scoring.
Nope.
It's their special teams that have given them that opportunity. They got the 6th best penalty kill to go along with it. So that, to me, is going to be a big must for the Leafs if they want to win this game. If they can keep things even, Steven, at 5-on-5, and then end up winning the power plays or the special teams and score a power play goal or two and keep the Oilers off the board, I think they have a shot. They're the underdogs in terms of FanDuel and whatnot, but I think the Maple Leafs, we've seen them before dig in with Matthews out of the lineup, and everyone kind of around the team steps up and plays, half a percentage point better. But as a collective, they typically, play pretty well when that happens. It's an insane statistic when Matthews is out of the lineup, their winning percentage, and look, they're 4-1 over the last 5 games. And they're hoping to make it 5-1. And I think special teams and then a depth goal has to come to, right? You need to get a goal from one of those guys in the bottom end of your roster. You get a goal from the fourth line somehow. Maybe Domi, pots one to get on the board for the first time this year. But at some point, you can't just rely on the big boys. You got to get something from down your lineup. And I think it's imperative when you play a team like Edmonton who can score from all 4 lines and get something from the back end. And it's always a threat that power play could erupt as well.
And you got to stay out of the box.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
This
Do
Leafs
not
team is,
give those guys opportunities at 5-on-4.
This Leafs team has taken a lot of penalties. They've been fortunate their penalty kill is top, in the top 10 in the league.
6th. Yeah.
Right. But there's a reason why they're also 6th. It's because they are killing so many, penalties. So you gotta stay out of the box. This, the reason why the Oilers now with McDavid back, they're such a tough team to stop when they're on the power play. So just stay out of the box.
Yeah, they've taken 77 penalties so far this year, which is the 4th most. So the 4th most penalized team in the NHL this year. So, and 2nd most when you look at minor penalties. So in terms of minor penalties, they're the 2nd most penalized team with 73 minors on the year. So that certainly will have to be cut down at some point this year for the Maple Leafs to try and get a little bit more lucky when it comes to the penalty discrepancy, I would say. All right, anything else you want to say before we jet out of here?
No, it's going to be a fun game. Again, 4:00 start here for me, so try to find a way to watch it.
That's right. 4:00 start on a Saturday. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On at Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at _Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game. Dave, good luck at the Grey Cup this weekend. Good luck to the Argos, our brethren, the Leafs brethren. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.